In 1979, the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan in the name of fulfilling its internationalist responsibilities. 10 years later, in 1989, the Soviet Union was forced to withdraw more than 100,000 troops from Afghanistan. There is no way. It must be withdrawn. If you don't retreat, you won't be able to attend the funeral for the Soviet Union. Afghanistan is a landlocked country, with Iran to the west and a borderline with the Soviet Union to the north. The east and south are close to Pakistan. At that time, 90% of Afghanistan were farmers and herdsmen. 80% of national income depends on agriculture. So in 1978, Afghanistan is one of the poorest countries in the world. Afghanistan fought 3 wars against Britain before. Restored independence in 1919. In 1973, the king of Afghanistan was seeing a doctor outside. Dawood took the opportunity to launch a coup. The king was abolished and the Republic of Afghanistan was established. Dawood took office as the first president of the Republic of Afghanistan. After Dawood came to power, he saw that his country is so poor and backward. He found a good brother to help me. Look around. Isn't there anyone around me? So he took the initiative to hug the Soviet Union's thighs. Brezhnev saw that he was so well-behaved and sensible. He liked this dog very much. So wave his hand. More than 2,000 economic and technical experts have been sent to Afghanistan. Many loans are also provided. Vigorously support Afghanistan. A People's Democratic Party was also established. In fact, it is the branch of the Soviet Communist Party in Afghanistan. The problem is, Brezhnev can't treat other people's grandchildren as their parents. Sure enough, it didn't take long. Dawood felt that being this licking dog was too tired. Soviet intervention and control seemed too much. So since 1975, Dawood has eroded some pro-Soviet forces. Also seeks some assistance from the world outside the Soviet Union. Can the Soviet Union endure this? You've got all the benefits. You're disobedient in a blink of an eye. April 1977. Brezhnev personally advised Dawood, don't be too conscience-free. Brother continues to take care of you. But Dawood said, we are an independent country. I am the president of this independent country. Let's summarize. My wings are hard now. My brother's words are useless. Then what do you think of brother? Only consider cleaning the portal. Otherwise, how can I lead this team? Dawood felt it himself. Offending the boss will definitely not have any good results. So for self-protection, Dawood arrests 7 Afghan People's Democratic Party leaders. Because behind this People's Democratic Party, it is supported by the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. The next day, Afghan People's Democratic Party, another leader, Amin, launched a military coup, commanded a tank brigade to invade the presidential palace. Dawood's family was killed. More than 30 people, including Dawood's younger brother. His younger brother is the vice premier and foreign minister. This is equivalent to bringing the Dawood family. The whole family was killed. Amin completed his work in 10 hours. Then it was established. Democratic Republic of Afghanistan has been arrested by Dawood. Taraki, General Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, become a chairman and prime minister. Amin serves as vice premier and foreign minister. The Soviet Union is very happy. The recognition of this new Democratic Republic of Afghanistan was announced on the same day. The Afghan People's Democratic Party is in power. So he immediately showed goodwill to the Soviet Union. It means to learn from the Soviet Union's good example. Building socialism wholeheartedly. Chairman Taraki said, prepare for 5 years. Complete what the Soviet Union has done for more than 60 years. I'm going to start playing the Great Leap Forward again. Afghanistan will begin a comprehensive socialist transformation. Then the big cleaning came. A large number of people from all walks of life who have different opinions were taken out and shot. It's still the familiar smell of the Soviet Union. But within this party, between Taraki and Amin, the conflict between these two figures, number 1 and number 2, has intensified. In the end, both of them wanted to get rid of each other. This happened. Generally, it's better to start first. Afterwards, cool. Amin took action first. 3 Tara's confidants removed from their posts as minister. Tara's informed Amin. You came to the president's palace. Let's have a good talk. Amin brought 8 personal bodyguards. And his guards arrived at the presidential palace. Want to see what Tara's wants to talk to him. Unexpectedly, as soon as he stepped into the presidential palace. Haven't met yet. Haven't said anything yet. The ambushed gunman. A crazy shot. Amin was protected by his bodyguards. Only injured his hand, but all 8 bodyguards were shot dead. Amin is lucky, after escaping back to the Ministry of Defense. Order the Kabul garrison troops immediately. Attack the presidential palace. Arrested Taraki. Amin announced the convening of the Political Bureau of the People's Democratic Party Central Committee. Announced to lift Taraki and all the positions of his group, all expelled from the party. Amin then convened the plenary session of the People's Democratic Party Central Committee. Election himself as General Secretary of the Party Central Committee. Immediately afterwards, the Revolutionary Committee appointed Amin as president. This is equivalent to the success of Amin's coup. Then Amin strongly condemned the Soviet government, because aiming was almost done before. That was what the Soviet Union ordered Taraki to do. The Soviet Union once signaled to Amin after the coup, "Don't kill him after Taraki stepped down. After all, he is our Soviet brother." But Amin has a tough temper. Ignore the Soviet Union at all. Also ordered Taraki to die of death. In other words, the whole thing is the Central Committee of the Soviet Union. Want to get rid of Amin. Support Taraki, who listens to Soviet dialect. It turned out not to be arranged. Put a trap. But Amin escaped. In the end, Amin won the lead. When Brezhnev heard that Taraki died like this, he himself was sad. The little brother who was finally trained died like this. What a pity. So in the end, the Soviet Union finally sent troops to Afghanistan. But the Soviet Union did not want to do it directly before. Why is there such a turning point? This is also the global hegemony strategy with the Soviet Union. It is related to its implementation of the strategy of moving south. There's a reason here. It was the Third Middle East War in 1967. The Soviet-backed Arab countries were beaten miserably by Israel. Arab countries' miserable defeat in the Third Middle East War. The Soviet Union's trust in the Arab world has dropped to a freezing point. After more than 10 years of hard work, the Soviet Union, all the power networks built in the Middle East have been torn apart. Spend money and work. What's wrong in the end? Brezhnev has been questioned in the party. In order to make up for the heavy losses in the Middle East, the Soviet Union began to penetrate Afghanistan. Want to build a new base for progress in the Persian Gulf. Afghanistan has been in the 1950s. It is a key area for the Soviet Union and the United States to compete for. What the Soviet Union values more is the long border between the Soviet Union. So the changes in the situation in Afghanistan, that is closely related to the national strategic interests of the Soviet Union. Until the fall of 1979, the basic policy of the CPC Central Committee on Afghanistan, they don't send troops directly. No need to do it directly. After all, although they recognize you as the eldest brother, but they are still an independent and sovereign country. But now with Amin coming to power, originally, his little brother Taraki was dead. And now Amin takes his Soviet big brother's warning as a fart. Taraki suffocated. The Soviet Union was completely lost. In the 3 months after Amin's coup, he started cleaning again. The whole country is in horror. This has directly led to the growing number of anti-government forces in Afghanistan. Later, almost 80% of Afghanistan was controlled. The Central Committee of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union believes that the situation in Afghanistan has affected the Soviet Union's national security strategy. And what Brezhnev couldn't stand the most was that the Amin government was increasingly showing a tendency to get rid of the Soviet Union. Show kindness to the United States publicly. So all the signs indicate that Afghanistan, where Afghanistan is in power, is likely to be pro-US. So at the emergency meeting of the Political Bureau of the CPC Central Committee, the opposition voices in the Politburo were finally unified. The Political Bureau of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union believed that the Soviet Union could not lose Afghanistan under any circumstances and must be defended. The current situation is that if you want to save Afghanistan, you must get rid of Amin. To get rid of Amin, only the Soviet Union sent troops directly. There is no other way. It's because of such a chain of considerations. So the Central Committee of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union did not care about everything. Decided to send troops directly to kill Amin. At that time, some senior officials in the General Staff of the Soviet Army, including the Chief of Staff, all have been proposed. The situation in Afghanistan is complicated. Send troops rashly. It is likely that these jihads will escalate their anti-government. And there are many ethnic tribes in Afghanistan. Islamic factions exist. The Soviet Army may have trouble. But this is just some voice from the military. The 10 members of the Politburo meeting agreed unanimously. We are going to send troops to Afghanistan. No Politburo member voted against it. So on the evening of December 27, 1979, it was a black murder night. Follow the careful plan in advance. The Soviet Special Forces took action directly. Captured Amin's palace in one fell swoop. This scene is very intense. Amin was beaten to death on the spot. The commander of the Soviet Special Forces was also beaten to death. Then the Soviet Union established a new Karmil to take office. Become General Secretary of the Afghan People's Democratic Party. Brezhnev called Karmil immediately. Congratulations to him on his election. Then the Soviet troops crossed the Soviet-era border in large numbers. Enter Afghanistan in full and control various key departments. This is a great deal for the Soviet Union. But what are you? You're invading. Naked aggression. Afghanistan is not your home. How can you have such hegemonic behavior? Almost unanimously condemned the whole world. The Chinese government also issued a statement, asked the Soviet Union to stop interfering in Afghanistan's internal affairs, withdraw all armed forces. A large number of countries submitted draft resolutions to the UN Security Council, requesting respect for the sovereign territorial integrity of Afghanistan. Let the Soviet army go back to their hometown immediately. The Soviet army hasn't had a good time for long. At the beginning, they did have obvious advantages. Brezhnev thought he was dispatching 50,000 troops. The battle could be finished in 3 to 4 weeks. But this empire cemetery in Afghanistan, that's not a waste of time. Guerrillas everywhere quickly changed their tactics. As soon as the main force of the Soviet army was launched, they immediately dispersed and hidden. The main force of the Soviet army withdrew. They gathered immediately, ambushed the Soviet army. The Soviet army's revenge is burn crops and kill livestock. Even a village was blown up to flat ground. But all this has aroused even more. Afghan people carry out holy war against the Soviet Union. Muslim guerrillas are almost everywhere in Afghanistan. To cope with these situations, the Soviet Union had to continue to increase its troops. Soviet troops invaded Afghanistan at the end of 1980. That's 85,000 people. Karmil built by the Soviet Union. By the Afghan people. It's called the Soviet dog. To maintain Karl Mayer's status, the Soviet Union had to maintain it all year round in Afghanistan. 30,000 to 100,000 troops. The casualties are also very heavy. By the end of 1980, more than 11,000 people have died in the Soviet army, and financially overwhelmed. To fight Afghanistan, 4.3 million rubles were consumed in 1984. It reached 14.7 million rubles in 1978. If you continue to fight, it will be really collapsed. The Central Committee of the Soviet Communist Party explained to lower-level officers, "You're going to defend the Afghan people, because the Afghan people are working with China. Egyptian and American invaders fight." But after these Soviet soldiers arrived in Afghanistan, except for their Soviet army themselves, no foreign invaders can be seen. They have to aim at shooting. Just those weapons. Even the unarmed Afghan people. Later, even the Soviet soldiers themselves were shaken. Some soldiers even ran into the Afghan guerrillas. The Central Committee of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union also realized this problem. So all the wounded were sent to East Germany for treatment. It was because they were afraid that they would tell the truth after returning to the Soviet Union. Gorbachev came to power in 1985, finally started to clean up the mess in Afghanistan. May 1988, the Soviet Union finally withdrew 100,000 Soviet troops stationed in Afghanistan territory. But at this time, the Soviet Union was about to disintegrate. The Soviet troops are facing the Soviet Union's funeral.